Good morning. We are going to finish talking about Laura Ingalls Wilder. I'm so excited. And we're going to start on page 355 in your history books. Laura Ingalls Wilder's books. Would children enjoy reading about pioneer life? Now remember, we just finished talking about the fact that Rose Wilder grew up and she got married, and Laura was thinking, does she even know what life was like for me, what it was like when I was a little girl? There were all these newfangled machines and things that were doing the work for people instead of them doing it themselves. And she thought people aren't going to remember what it was like to farm and to hunt and to do all of these different things. Would people really would children really enjoy that? Mrs. Wilder thought so. How would she write her story? She would tell it just as it had happened to her. She wrote one book about her life, but it was not printed. She rewrote the book, added some stories, and changed some names. After she wrote the book, her daughter, Laura Wilder Lane, edited it. Soon, they had a book they knew everyone would love. And they were right. There were too many adventures to put into just one book, so Mrs. Wilder wrote many books. In her first book, Little House in the Big Woods, Laura is only a little girl. This book came out during the Great Depression, but still sold many copies. Then Mrs. Wilder wrote a book about her husband's life as a boy on his parents' farm. She called this book Farmer Boy. In her next book, Little House on the Prairie, Laura moves and Laura's family moves and Laura is a little older. Afterward, Mrs. Wilder wrote 5 more books about her family. The Little House books: Little House in the Big Woods, Little House on the Prairie, Farmer Boy, On the Banks of Plum Creek, By the Shores of Silver Lake, The Long Winter, Little Town on the Prairie, and These Happy Golden Years. Well, third grade, you know how Miss Monroe loves to have things. I had my Louisa May Alcott books, and here are my Laura Ingalls Wilder books. Here they are. These are the books that she wrote, sharing her life with everyone. And it's pretty cool to think about. Changing times in American history. Laura Ingalls Wilder lived during a changing time in American history. When she was little, she traveled by prairie schooner and by horse and wagon. When she was older, she rode on a train. I can only imagine what that must have been like to, whoa, this thing is moving on its own and it's quick, and it's not as quick as today's trains, but it was an interesting thing. She remembered her excitement as a young girl when she realized that trains could go even faster than horses could run. The years passed and Mrs. Wilder rode in a car. Then came the day when she traveled in an airplane. From a prairie schooner to an airplane. Think of how crazy that is, to have only been on the ground your whole life, and then all of a sudden you're in something that's going to take you up into the air, and you're hoping it's going to stay up there and hold you. How crazy that must have been for her. Living in America was exciting. How wonderful America is, thought Mrs. Wilder. Times have changed. So many improvements have been made. Yes, America had made many changes during Laura Ingalls Wilder's 90 years of life. You did get that right, Stephen. In her books, Mrs. Wilder captured a part of America's history so it would not be forgotten. And into it, she wove the love and adventures of a real American family. And there's just so much. I just love the stories, the things that she wrote about. We'll talk through some of those because I want to share some of those with you because they're kind of really fun stories. But I want you to look at page 357 because this is something that you can do at home with your families and make it fun. Something you can do. Have you ever wondered about what it would be like to live over 100 years ago? Read these questions and discuss the answers with your class, your family, and maybe we'll have a class discussion somehow, some way. When necessary, research to find out more information. So number 1, riding a horse might be fun, but what if you never had anything faster than a horse to depend upon? What if you're late to school? and your parents are like, let's go, we got to get there. If you didn't have anything faster than a horse, that could be a problem. Or what if you were sick and needed to get to the doctor and you didn't have anything fast to get there? But you discuss that and talk about it. What would it be like to ride one of the first trains? One of the things you can maybe research is find out how fast it went. Find out if they were even comfortable in the beginning. We know what trains are like today. I mean, some of you may not have been in one, but you've seen them and you kind of have an idea. What differences would there have been in your mother's kitchen and in the way she cooks her meals than 100 years ago? 4, have you had to visit the doctor or dentist lately? What would you have done if you became ill or had a toothache 100 years ago? It wasn't very pleasant from what I understand from some things that I've read. What kind of work, number 5, does your father do now? Would he have had that same kind of job 100 years ago? Some of your fathers are pastors, and so yes, they would have had the same job, but some of your fathers work with computers, work in engineering, and they didn't have some of those things back then. They were just starting them. So would your fathers have the same job back then that they have now? 6, what kinds of toys would you have played with? That's a fun one to look up. You should look up colonial pioneer toys. What kinds of games would you have played? Would you even have had much time to play? And then the last one, in what ways do you help around your home now? In what ways would you have helped if you lived in Laura Ingalls Wilder's day? We talked about her helping with the cheese and making the cheese and doing different things like that. So what are some things that you do now? What would your life have been like back then? So talk through those with your parents, and then don't forget to do the comprehension check. I'll try to go through it with you afterwards, but I want you to work on it first on your own, and then we'll go back through it. But I just love talking about Laura Ingalls Wilder, and I hope that you enjoyed it as much as I did. I will be back with videos, probably 1 or 2 videos reading some of the fun stories that I absolutely love from there that I don't think I've read to you yet this year. So I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. I love Laura Ingalls Wilder, and I'll come back with some stories from her books for you. Okay, see you soon.